Hi there everyone, and welcome to the recording for Level 1 Algebra. So this is the 2013 CAT, and I'm going to be looking at question 1. And I really recommend that if you are going to have a look at this, that you do this question first. You can see the link above, so you can download this, print it out, have a go at doing it. The schedule's there as well, so you can check your answers. And then once you've done that, then you can look over and see how I've approached the problem here. Okay, so let's have a look at our first question here. So we've got 7 minus 3x equals 1. We want to get x by itself, so we're going to do that by getting rid of the 7 to start off with, and that will just leave us with negative 3x on that left hand side. So we can write negative 3x equals, and then 1 minus 7, well that's negative 6. Okay, keeping in mind that we're really wanting to look for that x there, then we're going to divide both sides to get rid of that 3, and keep in mind that it's negative 3, so we actually want to divide by negative 3, and whatever we do to one side of the equation we must always do to the other side of the equation as well. And so on this side our negatives cancel out and our 3's cancel out, so all we're left with is x, and on the other side our negatives cancel out, and 6 divided by 3 is 2, so in this case x equals 2, so I'll write it over here as well, x equals 2. Okay, our next question, question B. Before we get going here, we really want to expand our brackets, so we've got 5 times 2m, which is 10m, 5 times negative 3, which is going to be negative 15, and then we've got our equal sign, 6 times m, which will give us 6m, and then 6 times negative 4, which will give us negative 24. Okay, now because we're solving this for m, we want to get our m's all on one side, so effectively I want to bring that 6m over to the other side. So a step of working here is to subtract 6m from both sides. And so on this side they add to 0, so they're gone there. And on the other side we've got 10m minus 6m, which leaves us with 4m. The negative 15 is still there, haven't done anything with that yet. And on the other side we're left with negative 24. So because our strategy is to get m by itself, we want to get rid of anything that's not m, and so this 15 here, that's not m, so we really want to get rid of that. So I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides, and so 15's over here, add to 0 and leave us just with 4m, and on our other side we've got negative 24 minus 15, so that's going to be negative 39. So now we need to divide both sides by 4 in order to get m by itself. And so our 4's cancel out here just to leave us with m. I'm going to bring my working up here now. So I've got m equals, and negative 39 over 4, well because this is the CAT and there's no calculator, you can leave it like that. If you wanted to write it as a mixed number, you could think, well, how many times does 4 go into 39? And in fact 4 goes into 39 9 times, so I've got negative 9, 3 left over, and we're dividing by 4. So another possible answer is you could write it as a decimal, negative 9.75. So any of these three answers are acceptable. Okay, they're all fine. But you can just choose whichever one you write down. I'll write down negative 9 3/4 just because I really like mixed numbers. Okay, on to question C. Alright, so question C is asking us to solve this quadratic, x squared plus 4x minus 12 equals 0. And in order to do that we're going to have to factorise this into two sets of brackets. The reason why we know we have to factorise it is because of this x squared term, and a bit of a hint that we have to put it into two brackets is that we've got 3 terms in total, and so with that in mind we are going to factorise into two brackets. So we usually start by writing x in the front of these brackets, and we're looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 12 but add to positive 4. So let's list the factors of 12 for negative 12. We've got negative 12 and 1. We've got, of course, positive 12 and negative 1. We've got negative 4 and 3. And we've got 4 and negative 3. And we've also got negative 6 and 2. And we've got positive 6 and negative 2. So what we want to look at once we've got all our factors is what these all add up to. So this adds up to negative 11. This adds up to negative 1. This adds up to negative 4. On the other side, this is 11. This is 1. This is positive 4. And so because this adds to positive 4, and we've got positive 4 here, that's going to be our two factors. So we're going to write x plus 6 and x minus 2. It doesn't matter which way around that we put those brackets. We could have plus 6 there if we wanted, and 2 in the other place, and that wouldn't make any difference. Okay, now that we've got it in brackets, we can look at our two sets of brackets and just notice that they multiply together to make 0. So that means that either the first bracket is going to be 0 for them to multiply to be 0, or the second bracket is going to multiply to 0. So I've got two linear equations here to solve for x. So this one will add, we will subtract 6 from both sides, and that will give us x equals negative 6. And for our other one, we'll add 2 to both sides. Don't need that equals there. And that will give us x equals 2. And so those are our two possible answers, and we need to have those two answers when we put it down here, so 2 and negative 6. Okay, on to question D. Alright, so question D is an inequality, but we treat it in a similar manner to a normal equation, except that we have to deal with this greater than or less than sign in the middle. Alright, so what we'll do if we begin treating it a bit like an equation, I'm going to start by subtracting 7x from both sides so that I get my x's all on one side. And 3x minus 7x, that gives us negative 4x, and that minus 5, that's still there, haven't done anything with that, so we better write it in, minus 5. The greater than sign is there instead of the equals. The 7x has added to 0, so that's gone, and then we're left with positive 15, which we can just write as 15. So continuing to get our variable by itself, to get x by itself, we're going to get rid of 5 by adding 5 to both sides. So our 5's add to 0, and that just leaves us with negative 4x is greater than, and then 15 plus 5, that gives us 20. Alright, our last step here to get x by itself is going to be to divide both sides by negative 4. So our negatives cancel out on this side and our 4's cancel out. And there's only one rule when dividing by a negative number with an inequality, and that's that this inequality must swap around the other way. So I'm going to write that in the other way, and we're left with x on that side, and 20 divided by 4 is 5, so 20 divided by negative 4 is negative 5, and that's our final answer for that question. Okay, continuing on to the next page. So now we're getting into some of the word problems, and we are told a story here about Pierre, who does not want to tell Reese his weight. He says that he weighs at least 14 kg plus a three-quarters of Reese's weight. Write an expression for Pierre's weight P in terms of Reese's weight R. Okay, so we're going, when it says write an expression for Pierre's weight P, all it's saying there is write something that says P equals. And when it says in terms of Reese's weight, that means that what it's going to be equal to is going to be something rather with an R in it. Okay, so let's see here. We know that he weighs 14 kg plus 3/4 of Reese's weight, and that's it. That's all we need to write here. Okay, so for part 2, we're told that Reese weighs 56 kg, so before we read any further, we know that that's going to be 56 kg. Find Pierre's weight and state how it compares with Reese's weight. Express the relationship between Pierre's weight and Reese's weight in words. You must justify your statement using algebra and show that you used your expression from part 1. So basically what they're saying there is write out your equation from before, but instead of R, write out 56. So we're going to multiply that by 56. Now, keeping in mind that you don't have access to your calculator in this assessment, you want to think about if there's any easy ways to do this calculation without a calculator. And when you're timesing by a fraction, this number here is getting divided by the bottom number of your fraction. And so that's where we want to start really, 56 divided by 4. So what do I know about 4? Well, I know that 4 times 10 is 40, and so 4 times 15 therefore must be 40 plus half of 40, which is 60. So this number is quite close to 60. It's just one lot of 4 less, and so 4 times 14 would equal 56. So in other words, we can cancel that bit down to 14. So let's write this again as 14 plus 3 times 14. Okay, 3 times 14, well, 3 times 10 is 30, and 4 times 10, 3 times 4 is 12, and so those two add up to make 42. So this is going to be 14 plus 42, which equals 56 kg as well. Okay, so that's quite interesting. That's the same as Reese's weight, so Pierre weighs the same, and it's asking us to express the relationship in words. So in words we can say that Pierre, and I'll come up a bit, and Reese, Pierre and Reese's weights are the same. And so that's just showing in words that we understand what we've just solved here. Okay, question F. So question F, we're probably looking at an excellence question here, especially since it's the last question of question 1. So just keep that in mind, but you know, excellence questions are also the fun questions. Okay, so for what values of n will h be negative? So we need to just have a bit of a look at this equation and think about what we're seeing here. We're looking at a quadratic because we've got n squared, and we kind of want to think about what this looks like as a graph a little bit, but we'll get to that in a bit. If we think about quadratics and what we've been taught to do with them for the last year or so, one thing that we often do is factorize. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. So I'm factorizing this, and that factorizes like so, n minus 2 and n minus 4. Now we also have learnt how to graph this, not in algebra, but hopefully in graphs you've looked at graphing this. And a graph like that, if we drew a set of axes like this, this graph would cross the x-axis at 2 and 4. And if you just look at that graph, and especially where it dips below the x-axis, all of this bit here is under the x-axis, and that's actually where it's negative. And so what we can say here is that the values where h will be negative is when h is bigger than 2 but also smaller than 4. And that's all that we need to write for this question after we've factorised it. Okay, so that's question 1, and I'd love to hear your feedback. Feel free to email me and let me know what you think. Also, if I've made any mistakes, let me know and I'll try and fix those up.